Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a more formal video that I've been wanting to film for a while. This video is going to be my chronic illness story, and I'm not asking for pity in this. I don't want pity. This is not for pity at all. This is more to talk about what I've experienced and hopefully be able to help some people that are going through this or going through similar situations right now. So yeah, I'm going to try and do it in the timeline that it happened. I'm going to do my best to do that, but some of it may be out of order. Okay, yeah, another thing, I'm not telling you what to do to your body. Whatever you feel you want to do to your body, go right ahead and do. I'm not saying anything against it, but yeah. And I'm going to say that now because my health issues started after I received the Gardasil vaccine. I'm not saying if you want to have the vaccine or if you want your kids to have it, go right ahead and get it. I'm saying if I could go back and not get it, I would have totally not gotten it. But with that being said, it's totally up to you. So I'm just going to go on and start explaining my story. When I received it in 2008 at my annual physical, so for school and sports and all that crap. And I didn't want to receive the vaccine. I received the vaccine in July of 2008. If you've had it, you know it's a three-part thing. You have to go back once at 2 months and once at the 6-month mark, I think. In July of 2008, I got mine. I didn't want it. I went through the whole thing. I didn't want it. And my mom said, well, you should probably get it. And the doctor was pulling his thing of, well, if you don't get this, you're going to die, or you're going to have this, and you're going to get this. And I'm thinking, so you're guaranteeing if I don't get this vaccine, I'm going to die of this disease. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a little crazy. But I was 15. I couldn't really argue. So I received the vaccine. I went home. It was probably about 9-10 p.m. and I was hanging out with my friends. And I remember being exhausted. And I'm 15 years old, and it's summer vacation. I'm not exhausted at 10 p.m. Because most of the time, me and my friends were out doing stupid shit until like 1. But it's 10 p.m. and I'm exhausted, so I went home. And I remember thinking, okay, I've had a weird day. Because if you have any vaccine, it's going to knock you a little bit. But the way this knocked me off, it was different. And I went from full of energy to completely, absolutely none in the matter of 2-3 hours. So I'm thinking, okay, it's just part of the vaccine. It's weird. Sometimes it happens. Because sometimes you do have side effects from that. Well, I remember getting home. I walked up the stairs, and I was getting ready to walk into my room. And I remember walking into my room, but the next thing I remember is waking up in my bedroom floor. I don't remember anything between walking into my bedroom door and waking up on the floor a few minutes later. So I passed out after the first vaccine, and they said you have to wait 15 minutes after you get it to make sure something doesn't happen to you at the office. And I'm thinking, okay, because everybody has this vaccine and it always happens within 15 minutes. Yeah, no. And then, so after that, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, okay, passed out. That's weird, but it's not anything, because it was on the list of side effects that I could possibly pass out, so I wasn't thinking anything about it. And then in September of 2008, I went for the second one. I had no problems with that one. I went for the final one in January of 2009, and I had no problems with that one either. Around May of 2009, I began feeling sick. I was shaky, and it was weird shaky. It wasn't like I'm a low blood sugar shaky. It was like constantly shaking. But I found that if I had something to drink or had something to eat, it wouldn't go completely away, but it would help it. So I didn't think anything of it. And the symptom, me getting shaky, increased until it kept getting worse until November, when I started getting weak and stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. But I didn't think anything of it. And it's 2009 at this point. And you have to realize I was 16 years old. I was getting ready to get my license. Biggest thing ever when you're 16. And I was a competitive cheerleader, and I was a fire explorer. So I'm doing all this crap, and I'm working, because the rule was, if you want a car, when you turn 16 and you get your actual driver's license, you have to work for it. You can't just, we're not just going to give you the car. You have to work for it. So I'm working a job too, on top of going to school and going to cheerleading practice and going to explorer training. So yeah, I'm doing this. So when I started getting weak and I started feeling weird, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought I was overdoing it, because I was kicking myself in the ass. I was kicking my own ass in way too many ways. So I didn't think anything of it, because I would feel sick one night, and the next day I'd wake up and I'd feel fine. And then I noticed that for a few days, and then in December I got sick at training. So I think that's a little weird, but yeah. So I told the guy that was there, and he explained to me, well, it's normal. Sometimes once you've done something like this, it happens. Don't think anything of it. Well, that next day, when I woke up and it hadn't gone away and I was still weak, and by that point I was dizzy and I was shaking. I'm thinking, okay, that's not right. So I'm thinking, okay, this is weird, but I let it go. I just dealt with it. And I was sick up until like a week later. And then all of a sudden, like a week later, it just went away and I wasn't feeling sick anymore. And then, like, I think it was like the third week of December, and I got sick again at training. I mean, okay, that's weird. But this time, I passed out. And I didn't tell anybody I passed out. I just kind of kept it to myself. I kept the passing out thing to myself. I just told everybody I thought fallen, even though I knew I hadn't fallen. But I wasn't risking not being allowed to come back or losing everything. So I just didn't tell anyone. And then the symptoms, the weak, dizzy, shaky thing, it went away around like 2 days before Christmas that year. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm fine. But then I started to feel a little weird, and I hadn't been doing anything. It was like right before New Year's Eve, and I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. So I went to the doctor. In between Christmas vacation and going back to school for our second semester that year. And the doctor said, and I told him everything that had been happening, and I told him I passed out and all this, and he's like, well, unless you pass out again, we're not going to worry about it. He said, the best thing I can tell you to do, because your blood pressure is a little low, is to keep an eye on your blood pressure and your pulse when you start to feel this way. So that's what we did. Because the doctor told me I was fine, I didn't think about it. Well, it's January 2010, and I get sick again. So we went through all of it again. We checked my blood pressure, my pulse, and all of this crap, and it was high. So I mean, that's okay. I just let it go. And then when I was still feeling sick, and I was told I couldn't go back to training unless I had a doctor's note telling me, yeah, I was okay to participate. Okay, so I went back to the doctor, and this time, after telling him everything, including that I passed out, he said, okay, we're going to do, because he was going through all the tests he wanted to run, and he went through all the regular tests, and they said, because he wanted to do a blood test, urinalysis, and all that crap. And then he said, okay, I'm going to add in a tilt table, but the tilt table has to be done at the hospital. So I went through all those tests, went for the tilt table, and before I even got the test results back, he'd given me the note that said, yes, you're free to go back to training, you're fine. And I had to have one for cheerleading too, because I'd missed cheerleading like 2 days So, and he said, unless you pass out again, I won't worry about it. And I'm thinking, okay. After going through all that, and everything came back normal, I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. Because I was thinking at least one thing would come back weird. And other than my blood pressure being low again, nothing had came back. But nobody could figure out why it was low, because I was high at training. It's like, it shouldn't be doing that. I kept going on through this crap and ran through the motions a few more times and felt like shit for months. And then February came around, or a few more weeks, and then around February, when I was still getting weak, dizzy, and shaky, but it was hitting all at once. And then I started having chest pain and difficulty breathing. So I'm thinking, okay, these symptoms are getting worse way too quick. And me being stubborn and persistent as I am, I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to give up on anything that I didn't have to, even though I was getting worse. So I managed to wade my way through it until March, when I was eventually told by the guy in charge of the explorers at the fire department that I was no longer allowed to continue. Unless there was a reason why I was getting sick and that I could handle it. Unless I knew that I could take care of I could handle it. I couldn't continue. So, in between December of 2009 and March 2010, I had, and you gotta think, I was told in January, because of me getting dizzy, I wasn't allowed to drive. So I wasn't getting my license, and I wasn't allowed to be a cheerleader, or I wasn't allowed to be a fire explorer, and my coach at J.Lynne was considering maybe you shouldn't be a cheerleader either. But right as she was about to tell me, okay, you're not cheering for the rest of the season, we lost this big competition. So she said, so I was basically told, either you've got to get this figured out, or you're not cheering next year. And I'm thinking, I'm cheering next year if it kills me. Because that's just who I was. I cheered for so long that I had to be a cheerleader still. I'd already lost one thing, I was not losing everything else. So after all this, I didn't go back to the doctor again until it was time for my next physical to start school and have another sports physical for cheerleading, because I had decided that, because I hadn't gotten sick, well, I'd still gotten sick, but it was just weak and dizzy and shaky, so I'm thinking, okay, and it was only there for a day or two and I was fine. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going back to cheerleading. I'm going to go back and do this. So I did. And I went through it, and we were talking to the doctor, and he said, well, with all the blood work that came back normal and everything else that came back normal, there's nothing concerning me that says, no, you can't do this. And then he said, maybe it's just in your head. Maybe you're just stressing yourself out, and there's nothing really wrong. He's like, stress can manifest as actual symptoms sometimes. So he told me I was stressed, and then he said, well, maybe it's depression. And then the best one ever that I've ever heard up until recently is there a guy that you like? Maybe because you're around that guy you get sick. So he basically told me I was crazy, I was depressed, and that the way he described it as in I was having an allergic reaction to a guy. And I'm sorry, but that is the best thing. No, actually, that might still be the best thing I've ever heard. So after that, but it's 2010, we're getting ready for our senior year of high school. While I was still having the symptoms, I was still having these problems. They weren't lasting as long as they had been. They weren't lasting weeks on end. They were lasting a few days, or a day to a few days at most. So yeah, I continued to live my life. And then in May of 2011, I got sick. We had finished our I'm about to graduate high school. There's like 2 weeks left until we graduate. And we are taking our last class picture for this class. I was taking an entrepreneurship class, and we had just finished our big sale of the year. And in the process of it, I don't remember how much money we made, but we had a sign with how much money we made and what we called ourselves and all this stuff. And we were standing outside, and it was hot, and you couldn't wear shorts or tank tops or anything at our school. You had to wear pants that went down below your knee, and you had to have shirts that covered everything. And the school was freezing cold, so you're in a jacket. So we're standing outside in what we were wearing to school that day, and most of us are burning up. And I've taken my jacket off, so it was still hot, but I wasn't burning up like I was. And me and my friends are short. I am 5'2", and my friend is a little bit shorter than me. And we've decided, instead of standing in the front, like short people normally do when they take group pictures, we're going to stand in the back. Well, there's a bench behind us. So instead of standing on the seat part of the bench is curved at the top, and we're standing on the very back part of the bench. There's enough there we can support ourselves if we have to. Well, in the process of taking this picture, we stood there for so long that I started to feel dizzy. My friend caught me as I was about to pass out. And she's like, whoa. So after this, we finally got the picture done, and we went back in, and she's like, are you sure you're okay? I've only seen you do that once, and the last time you did it, you smacked your head because you passed out. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm fine. So I'm thinking, yeah, leave it to me to start getting sick right before we graduate high school. But I was fine. Other than that, I felt a little off for the rest of the day, but I didn't feel that bad. So at this point, I don't really remember much else from 2011 other than starting college and being stressed beyond belief, because that's what happens. Because I was going to school, I was trying to work a job, I was trying to find another job that didn't require me to drive back home every week from school. So yeah, I'm doing that. And other than feeling a little off every now and then, I was fine. Well, 2012 rolled around, and I started getting sick again. In August of 2012, I was diagnosed with anemia. I passed out in August of 2012. I was taken to the hospital. The doctor did blood work. He said, okay, as long as you're feeling okay right now, you're good to go home. There's nothing life-threatening. You can go home, and we'll call you with the test results. So I went home. Like a day or two later, I get a call. Your blood results are back, and you're anemic. And he said, you need to start on an iron supplement and follow up with your primary care doctor. So I did that, and I got everything started. And then in September, like I said, I got sick, and I got really sick. But I didn't feel any better until like March of 2013. But all these symptoms, in between September and March, I started getting sicker. I was weak, dizzy, shaky, chest pain, difficulty breathing, all this stuff. And then add in, I was having headaches, and most of the time I was so nauseous I couldn't even eat. And if I was able to eat, I couldn't keep anything down. And then I started feeling a little bit better around April of 2013. So I went through the motions again. April through August, I was fine. And then in September of 2013, I got sick again. Back through the motions of feeling like shit until March 2014, I started to feel better. And by this point, I was a junior in college. I was going to graduate. I was set to graduate that December, and I didn't graduate in December of 2014. I graduated in May of 2015. So I graduated on time compared to when I was supposed to graduate early. But yeah. But in July, because I was still feeling a little sick, I never really got fully over it like I had before. I wasn't feeling fine, still feeling a little off. But in July of 2014, I was talking to my friend. She just had her baby. It was her first, and we were talking, and she'd been living in California, and she had the same symptoms that I had for years. And so it's July of 2014. I was talking to my friend who'd had the same symptoms that I had for years, like me, and because we went through it all at the same time, it was weird. And then she was telling me, well, our other friend, turns out, she has the same thing that I have, and she hadn't been diagnosed. She was diagnosed the day that she passed out, 3 days before she gave birth to her baby. Well, I talked to our other friend, and it turns out she was diagnosed while she was pregnant as well, because they both passed out when they were pregnant. So I talked to both of them, and I said, well, if I go to my doctor, he's just going to say I'm crazy, there's nothing wrong here, because that's what he kept telling me every time I went to see him. And then I went to another doctor, because I'd gotten older and I couldn't go to the doctor I was going to anymore. And he told me the same thing. I was depressed, and that there was nothing, I was making it up. So my friend told me, okay, this is who I go to. My friend who was still living in Kentucky with me, and I think, yeah, she still lives in Kentucky, but my other friend still lives in California. So, yeah. She said, go to this doctor. Tell him what's been going on with you. Tell him how long it's been going on. And tell him you know who I am. So we went through this whole thing of make sure you let him know that you have the same symptoms that I do. And he'll help you out. So I went to him, and I saw him, and I went through we did the whole exam, we did the whole spiel of this is what's been going on, and this is how long, and all this, and this is when I had this done, and this done, and this done. And after he reviewed everything and did his exam, and he took his blood work and the urinalysis and all that he wanted to have done, he said, okay, I'm going to test for this. And I said, yeah, well, my friend was telling me that you needed to test for that anyway, because she said that she goes to you and that's what she has. So we went through that, and he said, okay, well, this may take a few days to get back. It may take a week, so don't expect a call tomorrow. So a few days, actually I think it was a week and a half that went by, and I finally got a call from his office, and it said, well, yes, you have autoimmune hemolytic anemia. And I went back to see the doctor because he wanted to discuss it with me farther and tell me what my treatment options were and all this and all that stuff. So I went back in and discussed it with him. He said, you have this disease, and basically what it does is you have a group of disorders that it basically, my body has this thing wrong that causes it to produce antibodies that cannot talk now that attack the red blood cells as if like they're not supposed to be there. And I said, okay, so this is what you have, and this is what we're going to do about it. So I went on all this, and I'm working. It's 2014, so I'm dealing with all of this. I'm dealing with the new diagnosis and new medications. I'm going through all this. And once again, September hits, and I start getting sick. So I went back to the doctor to ask him, okay, so I'm on this medication, and I know I have this, but I'm not getting any better, and the medication's not helping anymore, so what is it? And he said, okay, we'll take you off this medication, we'll put you on another one. But he said sometimes it just happens. It's more of a trial and error thing than it's a guarantee that this is going to work. So we went through it, but in March of 2015, when I would have usually started feeling better, I didn't start feeling better. It got worse. And yes, since March 2015, I have never recovered through the 6 months, through the April through August period. I still get worse between September and March, but I don't get any better. It's always here, and it's always in my body anyway. It's always attacking my body, but I'm not. But sometimes I don't feel this. But it was where I didn't feel the symptoms at all, except for maybe I was weak or shaky or something. But now I'm always feeling sick. And while it does get worse between September and March, and the doctor believes that's because it's colder, because I tested positive for cold and warm and cold antibodies, and that is rare. He explained that to me, that it's rare to test for positive for both, but yeah, I have. And he's also, at this point, I'm no longer on, I'm actually at this point seeing another doctor as well. And, but so far the only thing we found that actually can kind of help are steroids, but my doctor doesn't want me to be on the steroids the entire time. And the meclizine that helps for my dizziness is now hardly ever working. When it does work, it gives me a headache. So that's basically where I've been 2014, 2015, along with this, except, and in 2014, in December, I started having seizures as well. They're absent seizures, but, because it's weird. I can stand somewhere and be perfectly fine, and the next minute be completely out of it, and wake up a few minutes later to somebody talking to me, and not even know they were talking. Because the first time I had one, I was at work, and I was working with a guy, and he looked at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And apparently he said it 3 times, and I heard him twice. Because I remember I heard him, and it was kind of weird, and then I heard him again, and I was finally coming back when he said it that time, and I went, and I looked at him and said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he said, "Are you sure?" And I'm thinking, "Yeah, I'm fine." And other than not recovering since 2015 and learning how to deal with the symptoms and all that, that's really, and always having these symptoms and always feeling like shit, that's all I can really say. And there is, for coping, hold on, but for the main part, the doctor thinks the reason the disease progresses at different rates and can get worse as you get older, or as other stuff happens to your body, or other diseases you have. So yeah, the doctor doesn't know why I haven't recovered, but he has a few ideas on why. Other than changing my medications and going off the medications and all that, that's really how I deal with it. But the best thing that I can say that has helped me is actually I got a nutritionist in 2016, or no, yeah, 2017. And it's weird, but that is one of the best things I ever did, because it made me start watching what I was eating and how much I was eating and what I was actually putting into my body and what was helping me and what was hurting me. And if you want me to do a more detailed video on how diet and all this can help with my autoimmune hemophilia, I'll totally do a video on that. Just let me know in the comments, along with any other questions you have, because I've pretty much been scattered all over this video. Because that's another thing, even with notes, I get so scatterbrained because of this disease. I don't usually like to use the word disease. I call it an illness, because a disease makes me sound like I'm not. Because to me, a disease sounds like it's going to kill me, and I don't think this is going to kill me. I think it's just I'm just going to live with it for the rest of my life, and I just got to learn how to deal with it as it comes. As it changes, because it does change. But so far, I found the diet and exercise helped me the most, and along with my other medications and everything else that I do. And I continue to see my doctor, and I continue to go through and follow up and have other test results done. And I have seen other doctors since. In 2016, when I switched doctors, I went through, I saw a specialist who was supposed to help me with my dizziness, but he didn't. Instead of helping me and telling me ways to cope, he said, "Well, you could do physical therapy." And I looked at him and said, 7 years. almost 8 years of feeling like absolute shit and being dizzy almost all the time, and physical therapy is going to help me. And then he told me, well, physical therapy is the only thing that's going to get you out of bed. I was told by a guy that had never met me once that I didn't get out of bed, I was too lazy, and I was never going to get any better if I didn't get out of bed. And that's another thing. People with these illnesses, while they may seem lazy, they are not. Most of the time, while we seem lazy, we are fighting our hardest because there's only so much we can do. And it's true, because sometimes, because when I feel really bad, it takes everything I have to get up and get dressed and go sit on the couch. And walking from my bedroom to the couch isn't that far, but sometimes that's all the energy I have, and that's all I can do. I'm not lazy. I've just got to listen to my body in ways that other people don't have to, because I have this illness. And how I cope with this is, it sounds really stupid, but I know that I did not make myself sick. I did not ask for this. And this is not something I did to myself. I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to get this weird disease because I had this vaccine done. That's the best way I can tell you to do it. And I actually didn't. I got that from the guy I had a seizure in front of. Because I was talking to him one day about a new job and about, well, because of my health issues, what do I say? And he was helping me. He was telling me, you don't use it as a crutch. But the thing is, you need to know you didn't do this to yourself. You didn't make yourself sick, and you didn't ask for it. So is coping for everybody is different, but for me it's mainly about reminding myself that I didn't do this to myself and I didn't ask for it. And I didn't make myself sick. And I have been told that I made myself sick for years, so the fact that I can finally realize that no, you did not make yourself sick is really helpful. But I think that, in a weird way, that's what has helped me the most, knowing that I didn't do this to myself and I didn't ask for it. And then, of course, there are the actual things that I have to do. It's weird exercising, but I think because I was always active in a way, that's why exercise helps me. I just have to know that I have limits that I didn't have before, so I have to be careful with what I do. But other than that, I basically live a life that I basically live the life that I would if I wasn't sick. Other than I go through different things that other people don't. I have to take more time off work because of my health issues. I can't do as much as some people. It's like my friends like to go out and drink and party, and I can't do that because my body doesn't like how it affects it. So yeah, that's how I deal with this. And like I said, any questions or comments, or any questions, leave them in the comments. If you want me to do additional videos on this, leave that in the comments as well. And please refrain from being rude. And other than that, thank you for watching this, and I will see you in my next video. And if you have not done so already, hit the subscribe button down below. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. And other than that, I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.